Welcome to Get Right Fantasy Network. Thanks for checking us out. Today we are talking about a little bit of early Dynasty rankings. Last week we did the running back position, I think, Evan, and let's go ahead and tackle some pass catchers, talking about wide receivers today. Probably just focusing on top 24, top 30-ish wide receivers. We'll definitely get into the later tiers at some point in time, but we'll stick with the cream of the crop, the chalk up top, where all the conversation is. So hosting tonight, you got me, Kendall VanDerBilt, and with me, as always, the one, the only, Evan Sather. Evan, how pumped are you? Real quick aside, for those that don't know, Evan runs a pretty fantastic mock draft Mondays. That is, it's about time for it. We took our little vacation, but I think in just a couple weeks, if not sooner, mock draft Mondays coming to you shortly, along with definitely some Friday night mock drafts as well. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. You do not want to miss that coming up as well. I did Monday night mock drafts with Evan on a different YouTube channel that I now have the pleasure of bringing here. I'm excited to get this started soon. The way too early mock drafts for the true degenerates like me and Kendall, you definitely don't want to miss that. Wide receivers, I'm especially excited to get into as arguably the most valuable position in fantasy football today, as we're starting to see. Kendall, are you starting to see more 3 wide receiver leagues today?
Yeah, definitely quite a bit. I'm definitely seeing it more and more. I don't necessarily think it's an evolution that popped in there because we definitely need more wide receivers. I just think it's a people that get into it start looking deeper in rankings. We start recognizing the wide receiver 3s on teams where I think when you get into fantasy, that's not necessarily drafted or thought about as much outside of just waiver wire stuff. So I think particularly in Dynasty, it's more of I know more. I've leveled up a little bit. My friends have that I play with. And so now that we know more, I want to play more. I want to start more players. I want a massive lineup. And I think it's just as simple as they start more wide receivers. They're more rosterable. If you have to add a position because you just want more of the good stuff, you add a wide receiver. I think it makes sense, and I'm all about it. I don't think you need it. I'm not like a crazy purist that's like, no, you got to be 3 wide receiver, 2 running back. But no, I do like it. I played mostly 3 wide receiver leagues. Definitely wasn't the same about 5 years ago, for sure, though.
No, definitely has changed over the years. Kendall, should we get right into it?
Let's do it. Let's get the rankings up on the board.
So, just recently, I finally got my wide receiver rankings in tiers. These are published as of today of the recording of this episode on January 30th of 2026. I went against the Jamar Chase grain. I have Jackson Smith and Jigba as my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, and I will happily talk about why I did this. So Jackson Smith and Jigba is the bona fide pass catcher in the Seattle Seahawks offense. 2025's regular season, he finished as obviously the top receiver for the Seahawks, 163 total team targets. The next guy behind him at 70, would you like to guess who that is, Kendall?
Behind him at 70, I don't know. Does it start with a P and with an Uka?
No, I'm talking about among his teammates.
Oh my goodness. Okay, on his teammates, wow. Who would be second in receptions on that team? The crazy thing is I want to look at Kenneth Walker or the tight ends. It's pretty close. I don't even know if it's a wide receiver. Who is it?
It's Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp did finish second in. Okay.
Cooper Kupp had 70. Jackson Smith and Jigba had double Cooper Kupp's targets. That is how valuable Jackson Smith and Jigba is in this offense. So that's comparable to a Jamar Chase usage if T. Higgins wasn't there. So name me a more dynamic wide receiver that gets the volume that Jackson Smith and Jigba got in this particular offense. Puka Nacua ain't getting that. Justin Jefferson ain't getting that. CeeDee Lamb doesn't even get that anymore. And Malik Nabers is not going to have that when he's ready for action now that the offense is finally starting to come together. We'll get to Nabers in a bit. But Jackson Smith and Jigba is a guy that I cannot put below top wide receiver overall in Dynasty because of the insane volume the guy gets. He's wide receiver 1 until further notice. Do you agree with me, Kendall?
I want to, but the only reason I don't is because I don't really have an overall 1. I mean, for me, I kind of have a tier 1 rankings it's 5 deep right now. I've recently changed my mind a little bit on that. Going back to it feels a little chalky. I can't tell about Nabers or not. I'm pretty close with him, but I kind of have Chase, Puka, and JSN in no particular order. In fact, when I list them out, I'm probably going to try and switch them up a little bit because I want to mentally think about them in that particular way. I like them all, but they all have different situations in terms of their future that I'm looking for, right? So it's actually something that early into next season is when I'm going to start trying to figure out who I kind of have ahead or behind. But as of right now, as the season finished, I have them in that tier because I think they are, one, just supreme talents that also understand the NFL at a very, very high level. And they're a particularly elite group that the defense knows exactly what's going to happen, and they are helpless to just obscene route running. Right? It's not even just pure talent, right? Like we know what guys like Neighbors can do with pure speed, right? But I think what we see with JSN in particular is I always knew he was an absolutely elite route runner. And I think we saw that in his rookie year. He was massively misused. You look at how close to the line of scrimmage he was getting all of his targets, right? He kind of looked like he was almost closer to Waddle in how low his ADOT was early on. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he starts getting used downfield a little bit more, he just explodes. I mean, full on explodes. So, I mean, how much higher could JSN be if he was utilized a little bit better early on, right? I mean, with the personnel, maybe it didn't make sense possibly, but if anything, I like seeing that he's where he kind of always belonged in terms of a talent. I think there was a little too much shade on him after some poor usage. But the one thing I look to with wide receivers in particular is when you are the main threat and you have a ridiculous ADOT, right? It should be somewhat easy to stop that, and it just can't because of the way, coaching plus route running. So I don't think I can get him lower than 3. And if you were to look long term, like Chase is fantastic, the quarterback wide receiver situation. Puka could lose Stafford, and that could be some serious volatility, right? When you look at the situation that JSN has, their defense is going to be fantastic. Their running game is good. They're just going to be a good offense for as long as I can remember. So he's one of the safest ultra high tier wide receivers of the bunch. And I think that's worth a lot.
I gotta say, Kendall, I'm shocked that you disagree with me here, that you have Jackson Smith-Njigba no higher than 3. With what he's shown us this year, there's no way this goes away. Even if it's Jalen Milroe throwing him the football, like, this is the guy. And I mean, being in the company of Puka Nacua and Jamar Chase ain't too shabby, but I mean, I don't see how anybody else can disagree with me at this point with what Jackson Smith-Njigba showed us, where he only had one game below 10 fantasy PPR points this season, and that was against the Minnesota Vikings. And that was I can't remember why that was so weird in Week 13, but 2 of 4 targets for 23 yards, and he still averaged 11.5 yards per catch, which, yeah, his ADOT is crazy high, but Kendall, with everything I laid out where there's a lack of competition for targets, do you foresee the Seahawks getting some competition for targets for the Seahawks, considering that this is a Super Bowl team anyway without anybody better than Cooper Kupp or A.J. Barner?
Yeah, I think they need to, but this is more of an NFL, not a fantasy thing. I think from the standpoint of as players age, their injury risk goes up. I don't think he's some injury-prone player. In fact, he's quite the opposite, like insanely the opposite. But if you're an NFL team, you want to be a little bit more balanced when you can, right? If they could be more balanced, I think it's good for the team. So if they could have like a Cooper Kupp to the JSN, right? Just a solid role player, right? It's funny that we're talking about the Seahawks because like they could use a Tyler Lockett, a younger version of him, right? But I do think they need something like that where situationally, when teams just full send decide to take away JSN and figure it out after a whole season, I imagine there's going to be some division rivals that spend the entire offseason with the intention of figuring out how to stop him. One of the easiest ways to keep him open is to punish the hell out of him when they put too many resources towards him. I think that's a way to keep him open. Similar to Amon-Ra, right? Amon-Ra kills it, but you add competition, it didn't take anything away from Amon-Ra. If anything, it just made the whole offense way too good. And he's always that dude, right? Like Jameson Williams kind of spike into his relevance for a couple weeks there, did nothing to really affect Amon-Ra. So I do think I think Arroyo starts eating into it a little bit, and they run some 12 personnel. It makes sense with the running game, but I don't see it eating into 150 targets ever. Like, I don't think his target volume goes down. Maybe it goes down by like 10 or 15 because of volatility, but it's not going to be because somebody else took targets away.
I think that I'm going to have to respectfully disagree there because Elijah Arroyo is getting to the point where head coach Mike Macdonald is sitting Arroyo out of games due to coach's decision. It's not because he's hurt. It's because seems to be losing confidence in an Elijah Arroyo. Second round draft capital, and he has not played well as far as running routes and doing anything with the football after catching it. He lost a key fumble in week 7 against the Houston Texans. And on top of that, like the Seahawks don't have any other flashy names besides like Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed, who we care about in fantasy football, but the casual NFL fans probably not so much. But they can hurt you with Jake Bobo. So take away Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't think the Seahawks care to expand upon a depth in talent behind Jackson Smith and Jigba because they seem to like their depth. I mean, Jake Bobo scored a touchdown against the Niners. And just because the Niners are hurt doesn't mean that they can't play defense. It's a key division foe. So I guess I'll just have to respectfully disagree with you, Kendall. I think
don't hear what I'm not saying though. I think he gets someone added. Somehow, like, unless Cooper Kupp's just fine, right? I'm not saying they added in addition to Cooper Kupp. I'm saying the team from an offensive standpoint wants to be balanced. In my opinion, that doesn't take away from JSN. Though. Some people always say, it's if this comes in when you look at the target spread, it's going to be different. In my opinion, it's like, no, they're just going to make it more difficult to scheme against them. And JSN's the dude, right? It's just always going to be the dude. So, like, to the question of, will something happen? Yes. And if people overreact to the thing that happens, I'm going to underreact and keep him right up there. I see him as they're all 1A, 1A, 1A. When I do tier based, I almost draft as if they're the same player, right? It's a range that I like for certain reasons. And I'll make correlating picks based on who else is on my team, right? I'm not going to have a JSN Kenneth Walker team, right? That's I'd pivot to Puka, right? But in my personal opinion, JSN and Chase are really the 1 and 2. Puka is closer to tied with Chase for me in that kind of sense because I think JSN he's as safe as Chase. I can't call Chase risky, right? But I can call Puka a little risky. He's injury risk since college. We saw it a little bit this year, and he's got an aging quarterback, right? And a team that as soon as the tires fall off, it's going to fall off hard. And I think Puka could have a Garrett Wilson season coming up. Like I could tell me you guys can see that happening, right? A Stafford back injury finally happens. Plus Puka had some knee issues. Like he could go the Garrett Wilson route at some point. I don't see JSN's worst season is going to be like Amon-Ra's worst season, which is going to be top 5.
I don't know if I agree with that either, to be honest, about Puka Nacua, because the Rams don't run a total circus inside a tent the way the New York Jets run their football team. They don't even have a functional offense that can move the football with Breece Hall. We were just talking about him last week. They can't even run the football right. So I think Sean McVay would definitely find a way to get the ball in the hands of Puka Nacua, especially if it's Jimmy Garoppolo or, hell, it could be anybody they get off the street to suit up a quarterback for the Rams. McVay will find a way to get Puka the football with that guy. Even if it was like you or me out there. I mean, granted, you don't really want me at quarterback. I don't throw too well, but I mean, I trust Sean McVay to get it done for Puka Nacua to still be a tier 1 valuable receiver, even with no Matthew Stafford. So I can't buy that.
I hope you're right because I was steamy on Puka, super steamy, and I own a decent amount of him, so I would take it. A little aside here, by the way, little anti-Jets. I promote fun videos when I see them. Tell me you see the short where it's like, all right, what's the Jets' absolute worst nightmare? If you're a Jets fan, like wake up one day and what is it? Is the Patriots going to the Super Bowl and Sam Darnold looking good on another team? Like it couldn't have been worse. Hey, he's popular. Let's should we move on to well, he is still in your tier 1, but this is a player everyone's talking about. He used to be worth in Dynasty a pretty consensus KTC name your ranking board. Everyone pretty much had him as, and I'm kidding, you can very much disagree with the philosophy. I do for sure because I sold him. But he was like a 4 first-round untouchable, sell your entire team to get him, Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
What do you think about Justin Jefferson? Everyone's talking about him, right? I think Fantasy Pros ECR, which, not the end-all be-all, but we get some early rankings in there, looks like about 6, I think, is where he kind of comes in. Talk me through the highs and lows of where you see Justin Jefferson's kind of range of outcomes, and what are you predicting for this upcoming season? How does that affect your ranking?
There's a lot of panic and there's a lot of overreacting right now to the Minnesota Vikings offense that failed to produce anything worthwhile this season, between J.J. McCarthy being set up to fail and Carson Wentz not working out in the system. Then they had to bring in a Max Brosmer, however you say his name, an undrafted rookie who couldn't get it done either. The offensive line was terrible. The play calling I didn't think was very good either. Any quarterback not named Sam Darnold, Kevin O'Connell could not get it done with whoever was playing quarterback for him. So that's also why I'm not dunking on J.J. McCarthy too early. I think right now this is more so a case of coaching not adjusting the playbook to the talent than I do think is J.J. McCarthy just being too raw and inexperienced for the draft capital that was spent on him at the 110 back in 2024. 10th overall pick, and you can't figure out how to get his confidence up. I don't understand why Kevin O'Connell can't draw up more quick slants, better screen passes. Do something to get J.J. McCarthy's confidence up, and that includes getting the ball in Justin Jefferson's hands. Despite the struggles of that Minnesota Vikings offense, he never saw a game below 4 targets. He typically averaged, let's see, how many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 6 games that were double-digit targets. He led the Minnesota Vikings with 141 targets, which is not that far behind Jackson Smith-Njigba in total numbers. This is a guy that they absolutely want to trust. Jordan Addison only had 79 targets in comparison, and he was second highest on the team in targets. And then TJ Hawkinson was an unremarkable third at 66. This is Justin Jefferson's wide receiver core. He's got the talent to do it. I know a lot of people are really out on Jefferson because of the quarterback situation. It's not just the quarterback situation, it's a coaching playbook situation. I mean, now, as we're recording this episode, the Vikings did fire their GM today. I can't remember how to pronounce the guy's name, but they seem to be in on Kevin O'Connell, which I'm not that excited about for this offense and any shares of Jefferson that I might have. But I'm still firing him up as my wide receiver 1 because he's got the talent to be in tier 1, and that's why I will keep him there until further notice.
Yeah, I like that take a lot. I feel like, Evan, would you say are you a talent first or situation first evaluator drafter?
That's a great question. I try to have a healthy mix of both. Talent, situation, age. Those are the 3 factors, if I can even make a 3 with my fingers, sorry, that's what I factor into my Dynasty rankings so that it's not just a case of just vibes, you know what I mean? I try to make these as valuable as I can for who can truly produce as a consistent wide receiver 1 based on all of that, and that's why I have Justin Jefferson at 4, just because not only does he have little competition, but the lack of production is why I stuck him down to number 4, because Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jamar Chase, and Puka Nacua have stability at not just quarterback, but their offense. And I'm worried about Justin Jefferson's future with the coaching staff that he's got, but he's still going to get the double-digit targets, right? So I hope that answered your question, Kendall.
I think it did. I'm literally changing my rankings right now because I just realized I'm pretty in on Justin Jefferson if people are going to go dipping him. I don't know if I can get him into tier 1, but I kind of see him like right next to Neighbors is very different. But I did just put him above Amon-Ra because it just felt right. So I'm kind of there. Yeah, I see with Jefferson, somebody that, I mean, I see the talent on the field, right? This is a guy that can stack two DBs at once or 2 corners. So it's just he's that guy, right? He's nice. I think Kevin O'Connell is smart enough that he can see what didn't work and figure out a way to make it better. Maybe not world beating, right? Because you still got to figure out, like, as a head coach, you don't know what 9's going to be next season. You don't really know what the off-season program development's going to do, right? You just don't know, right? We definitely don't know because I say we all. I was kind of down on J.J. McCarthy, actually. We'll go ahead and victory lap that just a little bit. I was big on Drake May. Remember when that was hype? Remember when the J.J. McCarthy drafting over Drake May was a thing? Told you guys not to. But I don't know. I see an improvement from the offense. I don't believe in Addison. The off-the-field issues are starting to creep into, like, dude, learn your lesson. That bothers me a little bit. Hawkinson doesn't seem like he's going to be a focal point of the offense as a possession guy over the middle. So I feel like that offense has to run through Jefferson. It's worth noting that I don't see major running back production coming up. Aaron Jones is just too old. not going to be as effective as he was. He's just too old and injuries are backing up. And it looks like Mason was maybe a pretty serious product of the 49ers system. He was good, not great for the team, in my opinion. Not a guy that I think is going to eat a ridiculous amount at the goal line. I think you'd feel much more comfortable throwing some sort of back shoulder fade or giving JJ a chance. So I think the red zone spread is going to be heavily favoring JJ. I think if you look at the running back touchdowns compared to wide receiver, I think that's probably going to favor the wide receiver. So I think Justin Jefferson, like you said, targets are sticky, touchdowns aren't, right? We see that year to year in the NFL. Targets are one of the most predictive stats in the NFL of continued success, right? You get a lot of at-bats. Some things are going to happen. Volatility is inevitable in the NFL. That's just game to game, week to week. You see that all the time. So I think Justin Jefferson is going to regress to the mean for sure. There are plenty of guys we're willing to forgive. When you look lower in the rankings and we talk about some guys we're willing to forgive and move past, why can't we do that with one of the best wide receivers we've ever seen, right? So I think we should be buying Justin Jefferson. I'm pretty in. I'm actually a little embarrassed. I had him a little too low. Despite this is me saying I don't like JJ McCarthy, but I think he'll be good enough. And good enough is just fine with the Justin Jefferson. So I'm in.
I'll bring up this last part before we move on to the next wide receiver here. The Minnesota Vikings were the fourth worst team in passing yards average per game as a team. They finished barely above the Titans, Browns, and Jets. That is how awful their passing game was this past season. And that's embarrassing when you have Justin Jefferson, a bona fide superstar, on your team. It's similar to like the New York Jets where you have a Garrett Wilson. You got a guy that could easily be in tier 1 in fantasy, but with how messy, to say the least, the New York Jets are, you're not going to get the fantasy production as consistently out of it, and that's my quick take on why I have Garrett Wilson at number 11, but that's another big reason why I say you don't just have a quarterback problem when you're averaging 166.7 passing yards per game. You've got a scheme problem, and I think that's on Kevin O'Connell. Maybe some Viking fans listening will disagree with me, but, well, I'll hear you out, but I may not agree or with you or whatever.
Hey, we got to agree to disagree on a couple things here, right? That's what makes fantasy kind of fun, man. You ever try to get into a trade market where everybody's thinking a certain way? It's like, no, man, that doesn't work. You need some contrarian takes. I need to be high on a player. Someone needs to be low on a player. That's what makes the Dynasty ecosystem really work, right? Like, think of in the trade market. Do you want a trade market where everyone sees the same ranking set and therefore trades make no sense? Or do you want to have a positive and a negative take and actually like put your money where your mouth is mutually and make some things happen, right? That's what I like about spicy, volatile takes at the top 12s at positions, because I think it creates like, all right, bet, let's go. Let's do this, this for that, and I think that's what makes the league interesting. It can set the tone for a whole playoff run, a whole league. So love to see it, right? Love to see it. We like the NFL, but we love playing fantasy, and it's going to be fun to see what happens with JJ next year. Should we move on? Let's talk about a couple more guys. So many fun players to talk about. Evan, I'm going to throw it to you. Who do you want to talk about here? Maybe we still got some people in tier 1 left to talk about.
Well, I did want to touch upon Neighbors for a bit because I think a lot of people are forgetting how dominant he was before the ACL tear. Because Wan'Dale Robinson was starting to look really good as the de facto wide receiver 1 with no Neighbors being there. Now, that being said, selling Wan'Dale Robinson is not a bad idea in Dynasty when Neighbors gets back, because Neighbors isn't going to magically suck just because he happened to get injured once. ACL repair surgeries are a hell of a lot better than they were 30 years ago. We've come a long way with that, where players can still have salvageable careers after such a major injury. Jordy freaking Nelson did that with the Green Bay Packers back in 2016. I know I'm probably dating myself, sounding old by.
That was awesome.
But the reason I had to bring that one up is because I remember that season. I drafted him as my wide receiver 1 in fantasy football, and I don't think I did draft him as my top wide receiver, but either way, he finished as wide receiver 1 in PPR leagues after coming off of ACL surgery. So that's one reason why I'm not out on Neighbors, just because, well, not only do the Giants hope that he'll be ready for the start of training camp, but there's no reason that he won't be ready for the regular season. So if we take a look at the targets that was happening before he had to go out with that ACL tear, Neighbors was clearly the top pass catcher in that offense, and I think a lot of people also forgot that Wan'Dale Robinson was still getting a lot of solid wide receiver 2 targets in that offense. Are we? So, Kendall, let me ask you this as I'm going on my little tangent here. Are we looking at a poor man's Chase and Higgins between Neighbors and Robinson?
Interesting. I don't see Higgins as like this. The Wandale to Higgins comp, right? They're extremely different types of wide receivers, right?
Sure.
I'd have to think about that a little bit because I think the team dynamic and how it goes together works a little bit differently. I'm actually going to say no, I don't see it that way because, to be honest, T. Higgins is that dude. He is good, right? When he's playing, he's so rarely healthy. I've owned so much T. Higgins in Dynasty. Like, I'll be the first person to raise my hand and say, I am not objective about T. Higgins, and I never will be, right? In my best Dynasty teams, I owned him and I carried him on my IR more than I played him, and I'm having a hard time forgiving. But that being said, T. Higgins is an absolute just demon when he's on. Where I think Wandale is much more the Tyler Lockett, opportunistic. He just knows how to get open when the one's doing his thing, right? Remember back, he used to have like this half yard ADOT where he was catching like 2 billion targets, right? So I think he knows how to eat. I think he's a smart, savvy wide receiver. But going back to Neighbors there, I spent. You're gonna think I'm crazy for this because I know you're not a big spend multiple firsts on a guy. I traded with Phil. My hot take before Neighbors went down, his rookie season, like early on, I think week 3, I traded 3 first-round picks and bought Neighbors because I was that in on him. 3 full. This is super flex league where they really matter. I spent the absolute bank plus sum for Neighbors, and I nothing's changed since the ACL. Absolutely nothing. I think he is a phenom. I think he's as close to a Randy Moss clone as it gets. He's deep. He's going to catch it, and you're going to be in trouble. Maybe a little shorter, less physical. Even with him not playing football, he's easily tier 1. Put him where you want to, but he's a tier 1 player for me forever. And I don't know, can he legally drink yet? He's 22? Like
He did come in young, didn't he?
He came in at 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is a young sprout, man. Like, he's got so much room. As scary as this, he can get better when it comes to acclimating to the NFL. Like, he still has more to make happen. And look who he has ever head coach. He's got a guy that loves football, knows how to make it work. Like,
yeah,
dude, he's gonna eat. I guarantee you. I'll put my life savings on this, which is not a lot. It's probably a negative number. I guarantee you, he will finish as the overall wide receiver 1 sometime in the next 4 years. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen for sure.
It's certainly plausible. Being that John Harbaugh finally got hired, their offensive coordinator the position is still up for grabs at this time. Harbaugh didn't announce an offensive coordinator to be hired, right? I don't think he did.
No, I didn't see one. I was curious because there's a lot of rumor mills flying. I'm very curious where they end up going with.
I also had my phone on the side because as you were talking about paying 3 firsts for a Neighbors, I was curious with my Dynasty trade calculator of like, what's his value right now that could justify the weight of 3 first-round picks. But if I really need to rebuild my team around a wide receiver, I could absolutely see Neighbors being one of those guys. I mean, pretty much anybody I have listed here in Tier 1 can qualify for that, but as far as a youthful wide receiver goes who has so much career ahead, well, we hope so much career ahead of him, yeah, Neighbors is absolutely a guy you could buy. But if somebody is foolish enough to sell him for less than what you paid, Kendall, man, did you go to the bank and cash.
Well, I have a history of trading with this. I have never won a trade against our own Phil Ruskin, ever. And they're all fine trades. I don't know. He's just got a freaking rabbit's foot, man. It's just insane. Back when we'll do an entire show. I'll let Phil victory lap me. I mean, there's losing trades, and there's like historically, like if I were to give you my 10 worst trades of all time, Phil's 6 of them. And I did it willingly. This is atrocious. So this is the only trade I've ever I can't say I won. I paid 3 firsts, right? Like I paid fair value, if anything, for him. But yeah, I'm just such a big fan of what he can do at the NFL level. I feel like athleticism plus a little grit is just undervalued in the NFL, and he's got them both just in spades. So yeah, sign me up. We could love on him a little bit, but then I'm going to start talking about all the Giants, and the Giants are this year. I was extreme. I don't know if anyone watched. I was a huge Drake May fan, and I was saying the Seahawks are good. I bought Sam Darnold in Dynasty. I'm already a JSN fan, and I was one of the Kenneth Walker guys. So I became a Seahawks truther this year. So all my picks kind of hit a little bit. Next year, I'm in on the Giants. I know I feel like a Colin Coward, stick in here, but yeah, I think the Giants win 10 games. I love the team. I love the coaching. Look what happened with the
Wow.
Bears, by the way. If anyone thinks it's crazy, put an adult in the room. What happened? Good roster, good underlying roster, held down by coaching, in my opinion, was the Bears. And then boom, it happened. I think you put Harbaugh on that team and just keep people out of Blue Medical Tent, and they're going to hurt people in a division that's a little overrated, in my opinion. That can be beaten.
So, yeah, I'm wondering if it's going to be worth our. This is a wide receivers show, and really talking about Calvin Ridley would be kind of pointless because Brian Dable is now the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. I am worried about what's going to happen to Cam Ward and whatever other pass catchers he's going to get in that offense, which are not exactly exciting anymore, right?
Yeah, I feel better for Cam Ward, but that's only because I know Dable was very, very big on Cam Ward. He's had plans for him for a while. I think Dable really, really believes in him. So that's got to count for something, I think, but I think it helps Cam Ward more than the team. I feel bad saying this, but like it's a weird situation where Alec Eilminor, I don't think can win a wide receiver one battle in the NFL. Right? I think he'd be a good wide receiver too. I love that for him. Not a one though. So I do think they need somebody absolutely, and I don't know what they do. Thankfully, they got a tight end that's kind of getting there a little bit, but Pollard's not going to be better next year. I think I like Pollard, but I just think the team is just lacking a class in a lot of places. So Titans, I think I'm a year away from kind of fading them. I think they're going to be a bottom 5 team. Unfortunately, it's all on Cam Ward to level up, but what's he going to do? Division's a little tougher.
Yeah, and Io Manor was plagued by the amount of drops that he had from passes from Cam Ward. So it remains to be seen. Allegedly, the Titans are possibly going to give Cam Ward more RPOs under Brian Dable, which is why I'm worried that they're going to get this guy killed out there, just like Jackson Dart had to take all those shots to the head thanks to the reckless offense that they were running. But before we get too far down this rabbit hole, probably should move on to more exciting wide receivers in better offenses, right, Kendall?
All right. I think I was gonna start talking about Ted, but we can't talk about better offenses if we're gonna go there. Who do you want to talk about, Evan? We got about 10 guys we can have in the stable. You want to talk about Ted? Who you want to talk about?
Well, Teteroa McMillan, I really, really love his future with Bryce Young throwing the football. Something that I didn't think I would even say as of last year when he was just drafted. A lot of people were out on Bryce Young just because he was having a really hard time getting acquainted with the NFL level. The Panthers just picked up his 5th-year option, so they are going to be starting Bryce Young to throw to Teteroa McMillan. And this is a guy that I said this when he was drafted last year. He's him, and I think that being a Carolina Panther is not going to hurt him one bit as far as production goes. The only reason I have him in tier 2 right now is because he hasn't shown me if he's going to do any better from what he already did from his wide receiver 16 season last year in PPR leagues. 122 targets, he caught 70 of them, 7 touchdowns. This guy's the guy in the Panthers offense. Like, Xavier Legette is not an adult in the room, and Jalen Coker is a nice backup option who I actually like a lot better than Xavier Legette. And then Jatavian Sanders isn't really anything in the passing game either. He had to go on injured reserve at the end of last year anyway. Tommy Tremble is more of a fullback. He's behind his time. He's not a true tight end. And they don't really have anybody else in that offense. We have to see what the Panthers choose to do in the draft, but I freaking love Teteroa McMillan. I'm trying not to call him Ted. I love Ted. It's such a good nickname, but he hates it personally, so I have to try not to call him that. So after 122 targets, the second highest in targets on the team was Xavier Legette at 64. So again, this is another situation in which McMillan almost has, almost has double the amount of targets that the next guy beneath him got. So they want to build this offense around McMillan. So I have him as my wide receiver 10 in Dynasty. Kendall, is that too high, too low? What do you think?
I got him at 9. I love
You're
him.
with me.
Yeah, I'm in there. And let me tell you, let me be brutally honest. I don't think Bryce Young is an NFL quarterback. And I love Tedero McMillan. I absolutely love him. And maybe that's a little harsh on Bryce. Bryce, you can be a bottom half quarterback. You can stick around, but you ain't gonna be around forever. Right? I'd take Jacoby Brissett any day of the week over Bryce Young.
He did have his best season though.
He did have his best season. Defense helped. Their running game is nice. Their offensive line is massively underrated, and they have two very solid running backs. There's something to be said about like the reason they won. The games they won was the defense being turnover happy in a positive way, and having a run game that can just move the chains against the best defenses. Like they sometimes just getting enough first down to get Tet in scoring striking distance is good enough. So let me throw a comparison at you. Here's why, if you want a mental framework to get behind Tet, if you're not right, Evan, pretend you're not in on Tet for a second. Pretend you're some of the people are like Bryce Tet, like it's not going to be a good long term thing, and if they have to move off Bryce, it's not going to be better. Okay, I'm thinking of another NFL wide receiver, big-bodied. This guy I'm thinking of is more of a physical freak, but he's still a big-bodied ex-receiver. Should have been a clear consensus top 10, top 12 dynasty wide receiver. Kind of plays a similar role, but had better quarterback play and still couldn't make it happen. And you see this at the X. Quarterback play, good, bad. Sometimes you just have it or you don't, right? Tell me why DK Metcalf never became a thing, even though he really should have. And Tet, with awful quarterback play, decent competition around him, was just that guy day one, right?
I think the situations have some nuances to it, but I also think a major factor in the lack of production we're seeing out of DK Metcalf is his attitude. I think DK Metcalf has not an Antonio Brown attitude, not a George Pickens attitude. It seems like Steelers love their wide receiver divas that can't seem to get over themselves, but DK Metcalf had Aaron Rodgers, at least what was left of Aaron Rodgers, to catch the football from, which, he did finish. DK Metcalf finished a little bit better than he did in his final season with the Seahawks, in 15 games. He was wide receiver 32 in 2024 and 26 in 2025. I think he is massively underperforming for what he has to offer as a gigantic 6'4", 229-pound wide receiver. This guy's a beast. DK Metcalf is somebody who has been vastly underachieving since the 2023 season. So it's not really surprising that the Seahawks wanted to move on from a DK Metcalf and then make Jackson Smith-Njigba the guy who's doing better than like any wide receiver that I can think of over the last 10 years, including Doug Baldwin. So DK Metcalf is going to be stuck in they don't have Arthur Smith messing up their offense anymore, but at the same time, I don't think it gets better for DK Metcalf. And I have him, as we're talking about him, I forgot to scroll down a bit, I have him as my wide receiver 26 in Tier 4. I don't care who's throwing him the football, I just don't think it gets better from here, because the Steelers are the most unserious AFC, well, then again, it's the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I can't say, I was just about to say the Steelers are the most unserious organization in their division, but there's the Cleveland Browns.
I don't know, man. Cleveland Browns made one hell of a trade selling the Travis Hunter pick and getting an absolute haul. I don't know. I feel like the Browns are going to be in a steady upward trajectory for a little bit. They're making some. They buried themselves so much. I'd take the Browns more serious than the Steelers. The Steelers don't understand the modern NFL. Like the Steelers are going to be in trouble for a long time because they seem to think that you can just go out and compete every year in the NFL, and everyone got too smart and too analytical, and it's not the same game it used to be. And some teams are playing the game in a different way. And the Steelers, I think the fan base caught on way before the rest of the coaching staff and everyone else in the organization, which makes no sense to me, by the way. The Steelers and the Bears, I both look at them and say, your fan bases are more educated than a lot of other fan bases. We are die-hard sports fans, Steelers and Bears fans, right? Huge sports cities, very passionate, very educated. This the people calling the radio shows are very deep questions. And the team just blatantly went against all the wishes of the fans every single year for a while now. And the fans were right every single year for a while now. If anything, I just feel horrible for Pittsburgh Steelers fans. They have to deal with what they have to deal with, and they're still stuck in it again with that. So yeah.
I'm sure some fans of other teams would disagree about that who don't like Steelers fans, but that's another story.
Hey, that's fair, man. I ain't gonna argue against you on that one. But hey, man, should we get to a couple more names? I think Ted, we could talk for a while, but we just both significantly believe in the
Yeah.
talent. The situation doesn't matter. We think the talent's supreme. He's going up from here. Safe floor, great ceiling. I don't see Tet ever cracking the top five. He's not that guy, but I just think he can hang around forever as just a great wide receiver in the NFL.
I wouldn't say never for a Tedero McMillan. I think he's a guy that could absolutely crack the top five if the Panthers actually go in the right direction. Because you brought up a great point earlier too with the Panthers. They have an offensive line that has gotten a lot better. It's still better than what the Jets have, that's for sure. So I mean, if I have to pick an offensive line that I believe will definitely get better over the years, despite the massively lopsided DJ Moore trade, I think the Panthers will do better for their run game. Even if Bryce Young doesn't have a lot of time to get rid of the football like he should, you said he's not much of an NFL quarterback, but I think it'll be fine, and we have to see how he does next year with the option that was picked up for him, and see if they think he's the guy too. But I guess speaking of the quarterback situation, so George Pickens on the Dallas Cowboys has a bit of an older quarterback situation with Dak Prescott getting past his 30s as well. Dak Prescott right now is 32. He just finished his 10th season in the NFL. He's now a veteran, older quarterback who I don't think will be going anywhere for a while. The Cowboys have been looking for a strong number two for quite some time, and they struck gold getting George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he's the perfect guy behind CeeDee Lamb, who can absolutely be a wide receiver one in a better offense like what the Cowboys have, which is weird for me to say because I usually hold the Steelers in higher regard, but I would much rather have the Cowboys offense right now than the Steelers, even after getting rid of Arthur Smith. Wouldn't you, Kendall?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
No question for me.
so yeah, George Pickens, 24 years old, just finished his fourth season, had a wide receiver 5 season in PPR leagues. 5. But in his case, I just don't believe that's sustainable because he's the number 2 receiver in this offense, and that's why I have him down in tier 3, down there with a T. Higgins and a Lad McConkey, a Chris Olave, like Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's right there in that particular tier, a top 25 dynasty wide receiver. But I just don't think he belongs higher like the consensus has him right now. The consensus actually has him as a top 10 receiver, which I think that's way too high. Kendall, do you agree with me, though, for wide receiver 16 in PPR Dynasty Leagues is where George Pickens belongs?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to change a little bit, right? I mean, I say a little bit because is he moving? Is he not moving? I think he's staying. History says normally they stay, right? In this particular situation, the math is pretty overwhelmingly favored that a player will stay. So whether he stays, whether he goes, yeah, I'm kind of with you on. I like George Pickens. I just don't see where this top 10 overall dynasty player makes sense. Like, am I going to draft him higher in redraft? Oh, well, we'll see what happens, but maybe, right? But in dynasty, he's not Chase Claypool. I'm not going to go there, okay? But he has volatile similarities where if he takes a dip, it could be a deep dip. But if he has a good season, how high can he realistically go, right? So it's a situation of range of outcomes for me where he could go up a little bit or he could go down a lot from wherever you place him in that range. So I'm being cautious and ranking him a little bit lower. You have him at 16. I have him at 18, but we essentially have him in the exact same range. Just a little bit cautious. I think when you watch Dallas and you watch the games he played, there were a lot of shootouts. There were a lot of like, oh my goodness, he scored a lot of points because Dallas put up 40, right? If Dallas scored just league average, right, then I don't think Pickens necessarily has the season that he had, right? CD had a little bit of a down year. Pickens definitely benefited from that. I mean, Dak's going to sling it to somebody. So I think there were multiple factors that we'll just call it a little bit of positive luck. Nothing crazy, but it was on the higher side of that, and he'll regress more towards the mean. So I like the talent. I think it's volatile. I'm going to have him somewhere between about 15 and 20 kind of a range, but I'm not getting him close to my top 12. It is kind of how I'm looking at it.
You want to hear something tragic about the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I was swimming that.
They finished as a top 10 team in points put forward. So points scored. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They were seventh highest in most points scored. But just simply their awful defense under Matt Eberflus is why they went 7-9-1. Seventh highest in points scored, but their defense couldn't hold anybody off, and that's why they went 7-9-1. How messed up is that? Where they're the best team with a negative point differential. That's how awful it was last year, offensive wise, for the Cowboys, because it didn't matter. They still went 7-9-1, but that doesn't have a negative meaning on George Pickens' production. I just don't think he's repeating wide receiver 5 again. But top 25, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And, their defense isn't getting good overnight, but it should get better than what it was, right? And I think their running game, I think the reason they're going to win more games is if they figure out how to be a little more consistent, opportunistic on defense, but let's slow the games down, get them close, find some opportunistic wins, make it more 50-50. I think they could lean harder on their run game if they can get a viable RB2 cooking. So, don't love George Pickens. We'll see what happens. I own a decent bit of him. I'm buying and selling the crap out of it. I think it's fun. He's kind of a fun player to have around, but we'll see. Let's change gears. Pickens is great. Let's get on. Let's talk about a room here. I want to get to this mostly because it's just giving me anxiety. I got to talk about it. Guys, we got to talk about the Jacksonville wide receivers. We won't spend all day on it. We're kind of doing an early ranking show. So let's just go surface level. Evan, how do you have the Jacksonville wide receivers ranked in Dynasty? And how do you see some of the range of outcomes going into next year from a who's maybe a little bit safer you really believe in, like regardless of what happens, they'll come out okay? And who do you think, like, regardless of how they start, by the end of next season, where do you kind of see it shuffling out? So if I were to make you weight your rankings, keep them how you have them, towards the end of next season, so really predictive, how do you kind of see it possibly shaking out?
That's a fantastic question. So, as I kind of revealed right there, I have Brian Thomas Jr. as my wide receiver 19 for PPR Dynasty Leagues, and then I have Travis Hunter and Jacoby Myers back-to-back 34 and 35. So, Brian Thomas Jr., we saw what he can do with a good armed quarterback in Mac Jones. I think a lot of Jaguar fans missed Mac Jones last year because, it became twofold. We saw that Trevor Lawrence, yes, he got better with Liam Cohen, but Trevor Lawrence, I think, is a guy that is not exactly going to do better than his QB4 season. I think he's a great sell this year because I don't think it's. First of all, the rushing touchdowns is what made him a better quarterback, but throwing to Brian Thomas Jr. turned out to be a disaster this year for T-Law. Drops was also a major issue for Brian Thomas as well, following up in his sophomore season. He was wide receiver 4 in PPR leagues in 2024, and then he fell off to become wide receiver 42 in 14 games. He happened to miss 3. His targets went down. He only had 2 games in which he had double-digit targets. He may have to continue fighting for targets now against a Jacoby Myers, who the Jaguars had to go trade from the Raiders, being that Myers has a great catchable rate. He rarely ever has drops, and it worked out great for Trevor Lawrence. So I think that's just going to depend on what Brian Thomas Jr. does in the offseason to get over that sophomore slump. But knowing what I saw in his rookie year, I don't think it's unreasonable to have him any lower than wide receiver 19 because he is capable of carrying an offense. We saw it. So I don't think it's just going to go poof, magic go away. Brian Thomas sucks now. Okay, everybody fade him. No, it doesn't work that way. He'll be fine. He's 23. He just finished his second season. Sure, adding Jacoby Myers might hurt his upside as well. Travis Hunter, I don't know if he's an NFL wide receiver. I think he might be just stuck playing cornerback. What do you think, Kendall?
So I this makes me feel pretty good. I like BTJ still. I think a lot of the people have buried him, but I saw him compete at an NFL level very, very good that rookie year. I saw him a lot in college too. Really, really liked his game quite a bit. So here's what I'm thinking, right? He played injured a lot last year. The team won in really weird ways. Jacoby Myers is a great pickup. He played great. He picked up. He was ready to go. He was probably healthier. Was just playing better. It made a lot of sense. Like you said, everything was against BTJ last year, and the team found ways to win without him. And when that happens, you don't find ways to get BTJ involved. You just kind of roll with it, right? So it is what it is. But I don't think I've ever seen a player hit wide receiver four in his rookie year the way he did, and then not end up being just a good player outside of injury or off the field issues. And I don't see any of those being a thing. So I feel like the long story of BTJ is we're gonna look back at the season, in my opinion, and say across like 5 years, this is gonna be this weird aberration where Jacksonville does weird things, right? Like they're just like a weird team in so many ways. If you look back the last couple of years, like they have the greatest defense that's ever lived in fantasy.
Saxonville.
Yeah, like they're just, dude, Jacksonville's weird, man. I don't know how else to say it. They're the weirdest team in the NFL for me in fantasy correlation. Nothing ever makes sense. So I'm just going to live in the flames and say Brian Thomas Jr. is an extremely talented wide receiver. Like I have him at wide receiver 20, but he's more talented than most of tier 3 where I have him, in my opinion. So across 3 years, I usually look at a 3-year window in Dynasty. Where do I think he's going to finish and be? Like, in my opinion, he's more talented than Nico Collins. And I see the two of them, I always compare the two. And I say, they're going to converge, right? You cannot have Nico Collins up here and BTJ way down here because they are more similar than they are not alike. And they're going to converge, and it's going to happen. So even at 20, at 19, I feel like within 3 years, he's going to be closer to 15 than he is 20. So I had to get him lower because I don't want to rank him high too early, but I know he's going that direction. I would be dumbfounded if by the end of the year he doesn't climb at least 1 or 2 spots. So yeah, I think the talent's good. The offense is going to level out. He's going to be fine. He is their wide receiver one. He's the most talented wide receiver on the team. Maybe it'll be a weird situation where the team's X is less productive than its slot wide receiver. That happens sometimes, a la Detroit. But BTJ is just too good, man. He's just too good. He's a physical freak, and he played most of the season injured. I think players like him that are as big as he is, that play a little injured, it shakes him off a little bit. I think the drops came from just him being a little off. So I think he'll fix it. The other guys, I don't know what to make of Travis Hunter. I own him everywhere. I have like a 33% share of him in Dynasty, so, that's not great. That doesn't feel great. But we'll see. I'm kind of leaning into the logic that I think he is only a part-time player. Will Travis Hunter look a lot more like Isaac Tesla? Maybe. Just a pure red zone gadget situation. I think that's becoming more and more likely. I think that's going to be the narrative. I'm going to have to wait and see on Travis Hunter. I do think he's NFL talented from an athlete perspective, and I think he has the personality to win enough. Like, the coaches are going to like him. He's going to get some snaps. I see Travis Hunter has a very capped ceiling, right? So, like, Travis Hunter can become a top 24 wide receiver, but I can't see him becoming a top 20. Is that fair, right? Like, he can creep on that edge, but, like, I would have to see a mammoth difference. But them signing Jacoby was the coffin for me. Because how is he going to get on the field? Jacoby's great. Like, I can't rank him highly because of his age, but that's it. I love Jacoby Myers. I think I've drafted so much Jacoby Myers every single year. It feels fantastic. I don't even know where I have him ranked in Dynasty. I know I have him outside of my 32, but he's probably somewhere between 33 and 35 for me. That kills Hunter more than it kills BTJ for me. BTJ and Jacoby can be on the field every snap, and that's fine. Not the same with Hunter. So
I will point out something, though, from a few days ago. According to ESPN's Michael DeRocco, he wrote that there are early indications that the Jaguars are primarily going to use Travis Hunter as a cornerback and have package plays for him on offense. So that tells me right there that he is going to have limited snap percentage in this offense, because there's a reason they traded for Jacoby Myers. They wanted their solid wide receiver too, and then they want to factor in Hunter as a gadget guy. So this is not going to be a Deion Sanders situation, unfortunately. Hunter is a defensive guy who's occasionally going to get in on some offensive plays. However Liam Cohen wants to use him is beyond me right now, but he played 67% of the offensive snaps and 36% of the defensive snaps before that non-contact knee injury that he had on October 30th. So it seems like they're going to go in the opposite direction with him because I don't think their cornerback situation is particularly good either for the Jaguars between Monteric Brown and who's their other corner? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. They have a couple of other guys that don't really do anything for me. So, the first round draft pick I think they're gonna want for their passing defense.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So agree. We both agree. BTJ is we're above consensus on BTJ. I think we'll probably stay there. In the flames on Jacoby, we'll have a lot of him, and pretty hesitant on Hunter. I feel bad. I took some wild swings on Hunter, man, and it was complete. It wasn't because I really believed in him. It was man. What if he generationally smashes on this team? What if? Like I'll take a swing. I'll try to buy him at an okay price when I can post hype, and epic disaster. But I was willing to do it. I'll swing for the fences. We tried. Let's get one more in, and then I think we got to call it a wrap. Because I got a show coming up here with Mike. We got to talk about. Who do you want to talk about? We got a little list here.
Well, I saw that you put in Ricky Pearsall. I figured it's only fair for you to have a chance to talk about somebody. So I have Ricky Pearsall as my wide receiver 38 in tier 6. I have him below Worthy and above Devontae Adams. I mean, Devontae Adams because of his age, I have him lower. So Ricky Pearsall, I'm not sure that he's going to be the future for this 49ers offense, even with Ayuk gone. Sell me on Pearsall. Should I be buying him for all of my dynasty teams?
Yeah, I'm a huge Pearsall fan. I'm big. Okay, so the main take here, okay, the main premise is Brock Purdy's strengths, which is he's actually an incredible mid to deep ball thrower. His accuracy percentage on long ADOT is insane. He's actually one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. Not like 50, 60-yard bomb, but just a deep pass, in the 20 to 30 range. Purdy likes doing that a lot. Ricky Pearsall, that is his range. That is absolutely where he eats. That's where he's good. He's got some of the best hands. Slick Rick was not based on him dropping passes, okay? He has some of the best hands in the NFL. Just watch him catch the ball. There's some wide receivers that have hands, and there's some that I hate when you see it too. When you do the body catches, the letting it slip. Ricky goes and gets the ball. Like he owns that thing. He's got the hands for it. So when you combine a quarterback in a Shanahan system that's always going to put up points, in an offense that's losing weapons, and the best weapons on the team are old and older, right? So this is Dynasty. I'm not looking at a 1-year window. I'm looking at a 3-year window. Neighbors him next year. Never plays a snap, right? Go into 2027 with Christian McCaffrey after one more year and a George Kittle after one more year, and what wide receivers? Like name one who will be there in 2027. When you look at the long-term trajectory outside of 2026, what stays? Deep ADOT quarterback with great footwork, right? Kyle Shanahan, great scheme, great offense. And a dude that got shot, has the backing of the city, good stuff. I mean, the opposite of off-the-field issues. Like I guess you could call it that, but he's a good dude. Some people don't take the recovery seriously. He got back on the field multiple times. That tells me he's got longevity. So
the 49ers have two guys on their team who survived gunshot wounds. The other one being Brian Robinson Jr., who they traded for.
That? Oh my goodness. Oh,
good for them for overcoming terrible situations, dude. I'm not even joking. I'm being for real. Robinson was a great backup for CMC too.
He really was. Every time he came in, like, that was positive yardage. Like, the offense moved when he was on the field, and he did not complain. He was good. So, look, I see it this way. I think Ricky Pearsall is absolutely going to be an 8-9 target a game guy with a deep ADOT. I think he's not going to score all that many touchdowns. I just don't see him that way, but I consistently see him as a 1,000-yard receiver every single year, perennially. I'm trying to think of some comps for him. Okay, give me 90% of Chris Olave. That's Ricky Pearsall. That's one of the best comps I think I can give you. I think they're very close. Lad McConkey and Ricky Pearsall. I know they're different players. Lad can do some A dot and not some A dot. He can do some yards after the catch stuff, not so much as Ricky can. Zay Flowers might be a decent comp, but really, I think the Olave comp is good. He wins a lot of 20-yard down the middle of the field routes, and he can find a way to absorb the contact because he can catch the ball early with his hands, shift his body so he's not taking as much of a hit. I really do see him as budget Olave, and I don't see him as I have him outside of my top 20, but I have him as my 21st ranked wide receiver, top of 4. I would rather have Ricky Pearsall than Jameson Williams. I'd rather own Ricky Pearsall in Dynasty than T. Higgins. Like, T. Higgins is going to win you a title next year over Ricky Pearsall, but in the long term, I think the value outsets there. Devonta Smith versus Ricky Pearsall. I actually like Ricky Pearsall better. I think if he's healthy for an entire season, I think he's going to be really good, really consistent. Think Amon-Ra, but instead of 100 yards a game, 80 and a few less touchdowns, but very consistent. And if you do that consistently, you're going to finish as a top 24 wide receiver. Like the thing that Wandale did this year. Where did Wandale finish? He was top 15 wide receiver for sure. Was he top 12?
Wandale Robinson finished as the wide receiver 14 in PPR leagues.
Okay, 14. Ricky Pearsall can absolutely do that any year over the next couple of years for that team. Like, they're pretty close, and I actually think Ricky Pearsall is more talented than Wandale. We're talking a back of the first round talent versus an early second round pick. They're actually kind of similar.
I know a lot of fantasy managers don't like hearing a lot of theoreticals like what if he wasn't injured, because unfortunately when guys get hurt, you don't get any production out of them, right? I mean, I'm needless to say that, but it is worth pointing out something. Total targets on the 49ers offense. Ricky Pearsall had 54. He was behind Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle. He was the 4th highest in targets, and he only played half a season. So I think that more or less supports your argument about Ricky Pearsall being the guy if he can stay healthy, because he still had more targets than Kendrick Bourne, Jake Tongas, Demarcus Robinson, Marcus Valdes-Scantling. I forgot he was even a Niner. My God. But I'm not even, like, it's insane that he only played 9 games this year, and he was 4th on the team in total targets. Like, that's it. That just goes to show, I might be starting to buy in on Ricky Pearsall now that you're starting to sell me on him, being that they do want to get him the ball when he's out there, even if there's only games where he only sees 1 target.
That's the key for me, is targets are earned in the NFL, and Purdy's smart. And I just saw him winning routes at a rate that you want to win routes at 20 yards deep. That feels really, really, really good. When you're coming off of injury and you lead a team in targets like the day after you come off of injury, that shouldn't happen. That's not the game plan. There's no way that's the game plan. Hey, the guy that could be out in one more play, let's throw him the ball a bunch. No, he was just the guy that was open, right? Kittle was playing all the same games that Pearsall was, and Pearsall he didn't out-target him every time, but he got his targets. And I think that matters on a team that they're not like lacking talent. I know Ayuk was gone, but Kittle's great. McCaffrey's great. They got guys that were out kicking their coverage. They can do some things. I like to see this is why I always liked Rome. Like, this is a guy who can win with competition. Pearsall can win in a good offense and a bad offense with competition. We can have an argument about his ceiling, right? If someone can say, like, yeah, he's capped though. And I think I got to concede there. But I think his floor is just elite. Absolutely. A team that doesn't know how to not make the NFC Championship, like, they're going to be fine. And I think he's going to be a big, big part of that team's future for a long time to come. So sign me up. I'm a Ricky guy.
I think you just may have sold me on him, but I don't know if he'll be able to stay healthy like we're just talking about, but maybe that's for another show because we are running out of time. Kendall, would you like to wrap us up?
Yeah, let's do it. Actually, real quick, for those that don't know, if you're a fan of Get Right and you don't know where to find Evan, we're so glad he's here. Just stay tuned. You'll see in the description. Check out our Discord. Really, really great community. What's in it for you? We do more mock drafting than anybody on the planet. Okay, we're pretty much free. Hopefully, we can keep the lights on somehow and get a couple tip jars, going on here. But our community drafts more than anybody I know They're just as degenerate as we do. So coming up soon, we got mock draft Mondays with Evan. We got with the Get Right team, including Evan. We've got our mock draft on Friday nights too. So if you like mock drafting, but you want to do it against real people, and you want a community where you're going to get into multiple, you're not going to have to wait. And even if we're not running them, the fans of the show, the guys in our Discord, they'll run their own. They in and of themselves, they know what they're doing. So it's the most fun mock draft community I've ever been a part of. I followed Evan before he joined us. I tuned in to mock draft Mondays with Evan plenty of times. It was an absolute blast drafting with you. So for the degenerates that are just waiting to get into the mock draft streets, this is the team. This is the crew. You want to be a part of it. It's going to be fun. And we're the cheapest you can have out there. So if you want to draft, have some fun, and let's solve this upcoming Rubik's Cube. That is the draft process. Come hang out with us. We're a good time. So that's my plug for the day. Upcoming drafts. Evan, what you want to say to the fans?
Appreciate you all tuning in. Please don't forget that we will have a tight ends episode coming up as well for our Dynasty rankings as well. I know I keep showing mine on the screen, but I guess I'm the one with the cleaner Fantasy Pros portal ranking system on the team. So I'll definitely have mine up to date. My tight end rankings are way out of date right now, but I will definitely get them all pretty for you guys next week. Be sure to tune in for that episode as well. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying these episodes so far. And like Kendall already pumped me up for the mock draft show, I'll be hosting another one right here on Get Right Fantasy. Do not miss those, because I'm going to try to get some even more exciting guests than I did. I don't know if I can top that, though. I'll be honest. I got a lot of really good guests last year, too. That's going to be hard for me to top, right?
We might be able to find a couple. I gotta say, classic Frank and the boys. They are way more connected than I am. There's gonna be some names out there. Maybe we can get Jim Coventry back. That'd be a good time. We had some names, so we'll see what we can do. It's gonna be fun either way, though.
Totally.
Stay tuned. Let's call it a night. We'll see you guys again soon. Peace.